attention to this. Families across the country will sit down for turkey dinner this week, and for many of us, one topic is off limits: politics. A new NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll found the majority of Americans who celebrate Thanksgiving dread talking politics. But a lifelong Democrat who ventured out through the Deep South argues Americans are not as divided as you think. A hint of optimism. I love that. His name is Ken Stern, and he's the author of Republican Like Me, How I Left the Liberal Bubble and Learned to Love the Right. He is here with my panel, Howard and Matt. You got to talk us through this. You found a country much different than the one that is depicted in the media. What did it look like?
So, look, like a lot of people, I've been concerned about the increasing polarization in America. Left hates right, right hates left. I was aware of sort of social science research that we're actually not all that divided. Our issue polarization hasn't changed in 25 years. So I wanted to go out and see for myself. And I traveled the country talking to folks who I wouldn't ordinarily meet, trying to find common ground. And one of the things I found is Americans actually are surprisingly moderate people. When you get away from the yelling and the shouting and like, whose side are you on? You actually talk about issues, what they care about. It's actually quite easy to find common ground.
You know, you said that you were accepted in these communities even though you had political differences. Yeah. But couldn't one make the argument, sure, you were accepted, you're a white guy?
So you can make lots of arguments, but I met lots of people. And look, there's 62 million people who voted for Donald Trump, and that's 62 million stories. And I think we hear a lot about the corner cases. I met tons of people who voted for Barack Obama and Donald Trump. I think who were concerned about sort of the decline in their communities, what they cared about, you know, their families, their lack of optimism for the future, and they're looking for a way out and sort of clutching at straws. And I think when you actually meet people and hear about their stories, their concerns, you get an entirely different feel for people who are, I think, called deplorables by others.
Howard, Ken makes the argument that it's both sides, the extreme right and the extreme left, that fuel this massive divide. Would you agree? I mean, the resistance, I get it, but we can't say that the hearts and minds are open.
But I don't think the resistance is the extreme left. I think the resistance are kids who don't share Donald Trump's values, spoken values. I agree with Ken. I was elected by people, and some voted for me. I'm pretty sure voted for Donald Trump. I had a guy fix my car one time, or tow my car, who family I knew, who was 50 years old and probably had a high school education. He said, you know what we need? We need a Trump-Sanders ticket. That'd give the big middle finger to all those people from Washington. This guy's a really good guy. I know his family. I mean, it is true that life is much more nuanced in America than most of us think, but I'm not sure it's the extremes. I think it's very complicated. It's very, very complicated. It's deeply held values, and in some places, times it is the extremes.
So in the last year, many of us have been surprised at sort of this rise in racism, this racial divide. Right. But is it deep-rooted racism, or is it a feeling of hopelessness and people need someone to blame?
Yeah, so I think, so Howard's right. I think a lot of it is about the middle finger to Washington. The people I talk to, and look, I talked to a lot of people and some scared the bejesus out of me, but most people, they weren't talking about white versus black or anything other than what they saw happening in their communities. I mean, in many ways, we talk about the white working class, 30-year losing streak. Income down, life expectancy down, optimism for the future way down. And I think that, many people were just looking for something different. And, I met a lot of people also who said, they didn't say Dean Trump, but they said, I might vote for Bernie Sanders or I might vote for Donald Trump. To me, that's like two entirely different people, but it's also people outside the system.
Okay, then that being the case, people desperate for something different, is that not an open invitation for libertarians, for a third party to finally break through? Yet it never actually happens.
Well, libertarians did get 3 times as many votes as they ever did before, beat the Green Party in all states. Bill Stein did better than any Green candidate since Ralph Nader. What we see is this paradox. We have an increased polarization and sort in our politics, but an increased defection from the main two-party tribes. The 2016 election is notable for a lot of things, one of which is that the Republican Party basically got semi-hijacked by an independent, and the Democratic Party almost did too. These things are weakened husks. They're shells. They've been discredited because the establishments of both parties have not covered themselves in glory. We haven't been governed particularly well in the 21st century. People feel sort of out of sorts from that. And so when people go away, that makes politics much more dynamic. Howard Dean is a testament to that. 2004, his challenge to the Democratic establishment came out of nowhere, surprised everybody, used the internet, but that became the template. That happens now every 2 years on some level in American politics, which makes it dynamic and unstable at the same time.
I think there's some truth to that. I think both parties are in a huge remake. Our problem is young people who vote for us voted 69% for us in Virginia. I've never seen a number like that before. They're not Democrats. They support us vociferously because of our values, but they're not Democrats.
What are they?
Well, they're independent. They're actually, economically, they're somewhat libertarian, interestingly enough. But they're very much with us on all the social issues. Now, that's the young.
They're anti-racists, too. I mean, that's true. That's very much
They're for immigration. They're for diversity. They're for women's rights. They believe that gay rights is the civil rights issue of their time. Now, this is probably not the people you ran into in Texas, I would guess.
Right.
But that's where a lot of the young people are.
But I think so. So I think that's a really important notion. So everyone has a little bit of a different story. But the rise of the independents, we don't actually talk about it. 42% of Americans are now independents, far more than there are Democrats or Republicans. That's different than it was 20 years ago. I think it's a disaffection with the political system, the sense that this was they've been left behind.
Maybe we should celebrate the rise of the independents, the rise of compromise. That's what we all need.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. See, that should make you excited for Thanksgiving and have a positive political conversation with your friends and loved ones. All right, that wraps us up this hour. It's been pretty exciting. I'm Stephanie Rule. I will see you again at 11 a.m.